Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're jumping into an incredible story about failure, a big-time correction, and what turned into one of the biggest parties in Jerusalem's history. It's all about a king getting a second chance to do something right. And believe me, the stakes could not be higher.
So picture this. King David has already tried to bring the most sacred object in the entire kingdom, the Ark of the Covenant, to his new capital city. But that first try, it was a total disaster. It actually ended in death. This isn't just some logistical screw-up. It's a full-blown spiritual crisis. The question hanging over everyone's head is, how on earth do you fix a mistake of divine proportions?
So, David gets a second chance. But this time, he absolutely knows he cannot get it wrong. The whole nation is watching. His spiritual credibility is right there on the line. He's got to figure out exactly what went sideways the first time and fix it, step by painful step. And what's so important here is that David owns it. This is a huge lesson in leadership, right? He doesn't point fingers or blame his staff. He gets right to the heart of the matter. It was a process failure. In his own words, they just didn't ask how to do it the right way. They were so excited to get the ark, they skipped the instructions, and the consequences were, well, deadly serious. David's solution, when you boil it all down, comes down to two key things they missed. First up, you need the right people for the job. God had specifically said, only the Levites can carry this thing, nobody else. And second, even if you have the right people, they need the right preparation. They had to be consecrated, spiritually set apart for this incredibly holy task. This time around, David is all about following the manual to the letter. And this wasn't just about checking off boxes on a list. David was basically putting together a spiritual A-team. He understood that to really honor the ark, he had to honor the very specific people chosen to handle it. It shows you that respecting the process and respecting the people involved is everything. This was all about restoring order and, more importantly, respect to the whole mission. And just look at the sheer scale of this thing. We're not talking about a dozen guys here. David calls in the heads of the major Levitical families, Kohath, Merari, Gershon, and hundreds upon hundreds of their relatives. When you add it all up, it's over 800 people being called in for this one single mission. This was a massive mobilization, a really big deal. And here it is. This is the big fix in action. The first time, remember, they used a cart. They treated the ark like it was any other piece of cargo. But this time, they honor its holiness. The consecrated Levites carry it on their shoulders using poles, exactly like Moses had commanded centuries before. It's a physical act of obedience and reverence, and it corrects the single biggest mistake from the first attempt. Okay, so with the logistics finally handled the right way, David turns his attention to the atmosphere. See, this isn't going to be some quiet, fearful march. No way. This is going to be a party. He literally orchestrates a massive musical production to bring the ark home. And what an orchestra it was! I mean, you've got the absolute rock stars of the kingdom's music scene, Heman, Asaph, and Ethan, on the bronze cymbals. You've got whole teams playing lyres and harps, priests blowing trumpets, and leading the whole shebang is a guy named Kenaniah, chosen specifically because he was, and I quote, skillful at it. David is curating an experience of pure, overwhelming, joyful noise. So now, with the right people, the right procedure, and the right soundtrack, the procession finally begins. And the energy this time, it is completely different. Gone is the fear and failure. Now there is nothing but celebration and confidence as the Ark of the Covenant finally makes its way to the city of David. And get this, the very moment they start moving, the second they see that God is with them and the procession is going safely, they pause and they sacrifice 7 bulls and 7 rams. That's 14 animals. This isn't just a stuffy ritual. It's this immediate, heartfelt explosion of gratitude and relief. It's them recognizing that this success is a gift from God. Just try to imagine the scene. The entire nation is getting in on this. You've got shouts of joy from every direction, the blast of horns and trumpets, the constant crash of cymbals, the beautiful sound of harps and lyres. This is a full-on sensory experience, a kingdom-wide block party welcoming its most sacred object home. So where is the king in all this? Is he watching from his palace balcony? Nope. David is right down in the middle of it all. He's taken off his fancy royal robes, and he's wearing a simple linen ephod, kind of like a priest's garment. And he is personally leading the entire nation in this wild, joyful celebration. He's not just directing the parade, he's its lead dancer. But just as this celebration hits its absolute peak, the story takes a sharp and unexpected turn. Because as it turns out, not everyone sees this public display of religious passion as a good thing. What is pure, unadulterated joy to one person can look very, very different through someone else's eyes.
And just like that, the perspective shifts completely. We go from the cheering crowds on the street up to a lone figure watching from a window. It's Micah, David's wife, and, importantly, the daughter of the former king, Saul. Her viewpoint is literally and figuratively totally removed from the party down below. And the contrast here is just so stark. On one side, you have King David, who is just overcome with happiness, dancing, and celebrating. But from Mahal's perspective, up in that window, it is a completely different movie. She doesn't see a king worshiping his god. She sees a fool making a spectacle of himself. And the text is brutal. It says she despised him in her heart. And that's really the question this story just leaves hanging in the air. It's this collision of public duty and private perception, of sincere worship and what some might call a lack of dignity. One man's greatest spiritual victory is, in the eyes of his own wife, a moment of deep personal shame. It really makes you wonder, where is that line between authentic celebration and an undignified spectacle? And maybe more importantly, who gets to draw?